All right. What's up, everybody? Bootsy Greenwood here. I'm talking about importance and how to drop it. I know it's just stated a lot to drop importance, drop importance, drop importance. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. Really, it has a lot to do with trauma. It has a lot to do with imprints, really. Imprints that regard inadequacy and self-worth. So before we get into this, I do want to ask you to please go to Patreon and check me out over there. I'm talking about other stuff on there, doing exclusive stuff on that particular channel. There's things I can talk about there that I can't talk about here, and there's a lot going on. Okay, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this. It's been a long time coming, but please go over to Patreon when you get a chance. I've had a lot of folks patron me over there. I'm also giving away free stuff over there too. So it's not, I'm not trying to hook you on money. I know how things are right now. We're all suffering because of everything that's come and happened over the past several weeks. So I totally get it. But I do want to encourage you to go over there. That's all. So I've got comedy stuff over there. I've got, my own podcasts, extra episodes of that I'm putting up there, and I'll start putting up exclusive Patreon videos as well. All right, so let's get into this. What are imprints? All right, we talked a little bit about this the last time. We talked about Robert Anton Wilson and the 8 circuit model of consciousness. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, where are the other ones? Well, they're up here somewhere, They're more in this conscious space. And this is more the subconscious space, okay? The feminine part of you. Okay, a masculine part of you, feminine part of you. Now, what happens, and the reason why we can't allow ourselves to have, right? That's the big thing in transurfing. He says you need to be able to allow yourself to have. Well, how do you don't just walk up and then all of a sudden feel deserving of something when you haven't felt that way your entire life. That emotion cuts you off from the thing, right? So this, when you walk up to like a fancy car or an expensive shop or something like that, and you feel like you don't belong, it's very, very obvious. It's very triggering and very obvious in that moment. Now, those are the least important things right now, which is kind of cool. That's what's good about this whole scenario. Like, how important is your Tesla now? How important are these things, these very involved things, because there's like a lot of narcissism in our society. There's a lot of selfishness. And I'm not trying to shame anybody here. There's a lot of shame being thrown around. But my point is that now's a great time to reevaluate what's really important. What is really important? Because that's the kind of stuff that you're going to want to heal so that you can live the kind of life that you want. And in my opinion, the kind of life you want is one that feels good. Right? You want to live a life that feels good. The reason why we associate a fancy car or a private jet ride to we value those things is because we think we're going to get good emotions from it. That's not necessarily true. I'm sure it's very enjoyable to hop in, a super fancy car. That's a great feeling, whatever. But it doesn't come close to love, especially right now, I think like being separated so much. It just makes me like really want to connect with people even more, It's a very human thing. But during these parts of our lives, this is maternal, you're a baby, you're not even speaking yet. There are things that are happening to you that are being imprinted upon you in your subconscious mind. Same thing here, second, circuit of consciousness is about your place in the herd. And this is a big one. This one's very paternal. Very much like, where do you belong? Is this a safe world? Am I safe in it? Is this a dangerous world? And am I safe in it or not? Semantics, okay? 5 to 6 years old. This is ego development. This is, really learning the cognitive development, the left brain, the lizard brain. All that stuff is being developed. Symbols are being attached to words. And then we have the adolescent, the sexual circuit. For me, this is the last one. This is kind of what I've been working on, and I'm not even entirely working on. I'm working on other stuff too, comedy, etc. But that's kind of like the last one. That breaks you up into these higher levels of consciousness, which are he delineates them with different substances and things like that, which is interesting, but they're higher states of awareness. They're places where you can access empathy, where you can, become more intuitive, more understanding, and connect more with people. And ultimately with everything that is, because we're all just one anyway. We're all just one consciousness experiencing itself. So I have a goal. I want to be able to get on stage and tell jokes and feel good about that. Well, it turns out I'm actually not that unfunny, right? So I have a little bit of the ability to be funny. But what if I feel inadequate when I go on stage and I don't want, and for some reason, because of something that happened to me when I was, 4, 5, 3, around this age, or even, later than that, these things, we can re-imprint over and over and over again. And to cause a really true imprint, if we can come from a higher level of consciousness and re-imprint, then it's very lasting. But we're going to want to do a little work to dig down there and figure out what's going on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to lay down. Okay, I'm going to walk you right through this. We're going to lay down. Okay, and we're going to focus on these traumas. Okay, if let's say I feel inadequate, like I don't feel like I'm up to snuff to get up on stage and tell jokes, and I don't deserve it. I'm not allowing myself to have, right? Which is really a matter of getting on stage, feeling like I belong on stage, doing my set the way that I know it should be done. It's all in here. It's all in the seed, right? The oak tree is all written out in the seed. So I know all that stuff's there, but something blocks me, okay? Something blocks me, and it's a feeling of inadequacy, right? For most of us, this is all going to stem from self-worth. From a lot of this, for almost all of us, this is all going to stem down to self-worth and feeling like we're worthy of the thing that we want to have. And that's the difference. That's the discrepancy. That's the doubt-desire differential. It's because you don't feel like you deserve it. That's why you can't allow yourself to have it, okay? So it really comes down to an inadequacy a lot of times. Now, this could happen, of course, sexually. This could happen, as far as like in your brain. You don't think you're smart enough, for instance. We've got your place in the herd, where you feel at ease, comfortable. Like what level do you feel you are? Are you an alpha? Are you a, beta? That's all developed here at the second. And this one is based purely on fear. The maternal circuit. It's just eating. It has to do with eating. It has to do with comfort. It has to do with feeling either calm or more afraid during times of uncertainty. That's really what this circuit has to do. So each one of these have imprints in them. And then there's ones beyond that, right? Like there's the time when I'm standing out in front of the movie theater and I tell all my friends a joke and nobody laughs. Do you think that imprints on me? Yeah, of course it does. Every experience that we have is giving us feedback to the world that we've created in our mind, right? So we know that we are a subjective being experiencing a very objective reality where other people are also contributing to that reality, influencing that reality. We're not the center of the world like a lot of people might think or want to think. We're just simply not. We are part of. We each have our own layer. And so we want our layer to be as healthy as possible. So we want to get rid of any of these traumas which cause us to feel inadequate. So maybe I opened up that bag of Reese's Pieces, let's say, and they went all over the floor, and my mom was upset, and it made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And then I couldn't have the candy, so that just made me sadder. So this is an experience that I've had to deal with that is kind of a trauma for me, and I'm picking a very light trauma, okay? This is, you're gonna have to figure out how you wanna work on this. I'm gonna give you some options. But there are very, very deep ones. But that might have caused a sense of inadequacy for me, like, oh, I can't even open a bag. Like, of course I can't tell jokes to people on stage, or of course I can't, be financially, viable or whatever thing, right? That makes me just feel inadequate. My self-worth is missing, and so that's an imprint that maybe I had, right? So when I lay down, and I'm going to lay down and just try to calm myself as much as possible, Maybe I'll put on some very light music. Maybe I'll try to make it as quiet as possible. But basically what I'll do is I'll breathe. And I will breathe rhythmically. I will breathe either in 5s or 7s usually. 5 in, 5 out, or 5 in, 5 hold, excuse me. My bad, I'm teaching you wrong. It's not true. There are many ways to do this. You can do your own way. There's no one particular way. 5 in, 5 hold, 5 out, 5 hold. And, you know, in the Navy SEALs call it box breathing. People have different names for it. But just relax. You can do 7 counts. You know, totally up to you. But basically, get yourself into a very relaxed state, a relaxed position, where you can be comfortable in your own body. I lay down. I recommend laying down and breathe and start breathing rhythmically. Continue to do that. Continue to do that. Continue to do that. And then ask yourself a question, you know. Ask yourself where you're hurting. Ask yourself, that's a good spot to start, or whatever your goal is. You know, ask yourself what your goal is. Start there, right? Start with something that you know that's certain, and then ask yourself, you know, what happened? Like, when was the last time I felt like I couldn't do this, right? When did I feel like I wasn't able to do this? Go to that time, experience it, continue breathing this way. Then ask yourself the previous time. Then the previous time, continue breathing like this. The previous time, the previous time, the previous time, the previous time. Work on one thing at a time, okay? Whatever that is. If you are trying to become a stand-up comic and you feel inadequate, which is the example that I'm using, because I feel like that's a nice, easy example everyone can understand, but this is applicable to any issue, then start there. And I would say start with something that's kind of basic, right? And then you expose yourself to all of these experiences that you've had. You release them. You allow them to come up. When you get to the last one, you allow it to just, you experience it as fully as you possibly can, right? And then you're going to breathe in, hold, exhale. You're going to exhale it right out of you. Just breathe it right out of you, okay? You're going to relive the experience, and you're going to change your relationship to it. You're going to let it go. You're going to let your subconscious mind know that this trauma that's happened to you, you want to let it go. Your subconscious mind wants to let it go. Now, this is something that I think is very helpful and useful with someone who is a hypnotist or a theta healer, like my friend Ralph. I did this with a hypnotist. I've done this with another guy, not exactly a hypnotist, who guided me through it. And there are lots of people out there who can help you and guide you through this, but you can also do it for yourself. And I'm just going to give you the playbook to do it yourself. But you're probably going to feel these emotions somewhere in this area, right? Between your stomach and your chest, right? And when you identify these things, I really want you to take note of them and pay as much attention as you possibly can to them. And then release them out of your body through your mouth by breathing through the trauma. There's a lot of different methods for this. I just wanted to give this one because it's pretty basic. It's pretty straightforward. I don't feel like I'm, trying to convince anybody of too much here. Just to give yourself really the time and the attention to allow yourself to go there. What is causing this importance? What is the trauma? Why? Why is this important to you? Why is this hard? What happened to make you think that it's a big deal? What's the big deal? Is it really a big deal to stand on stage and tell people jokes? It's really not. I'll just let you guys know that. So if there's any of you out there who are, well, the only hard part right now is the limit of people that can be in the room. But, I can get here, I can practice jokes, I can continue to write and do all the things that I can and continue to perform here from the comfort of my own home, right? But if I can heal my ideas of myself and allow my self-worth to be a healthy amount of self-worth, then I can I can absolutely accomplish the things that I needed to accomplish, right? At that point, it's just action and belief and visualization. So the last thing I want to talk about is just prolonged exposure, right? So we're going to go through and we're going to try and release this stuff. And hey, you know, it might take 1 or 2 or 3 tries. You're not maybe going to get it the first time, right? But that's okay. It's a good experience to have with yourself, to breathe, relax. It's like a meditation. And then just go in and start asking yourself questions, you know? Ask yourself, why is this important? Let it come up, right? And then go to the one before that, the one before that, the one before that, and then just let it go, right? Experience it, let it go. You might have to do it more than one time, more than 2 or 10 times even. But the amount of times that you have to do it is going to be worth it, you know. And I also do recommend working with somebody on it if that's something that you think is important. Now, the other part of this is a slide, right? Of course it is. It's a slide. And this is going to allow for just a little bit of exposure over time to feel more and more comfortable by visualizing this in your body. Now, Maxwell Maltz says you can't do anything effectively if you're not relaxed. So what you've got to do is put yourself in a very realistic visualization, right? Feel all the emotions that you normally would feel when you're trying to do this thing, whatever it is. As you can see, this place is crowded. There are lots of new cases at my new show here. But, you know, right? You can draw a slide, you can visualize a slide. Just experience it. Just make it as real as you possibly can, down to smell, etc., so on, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, visualization, action, and letting go. Letting go. And I highly recommend the book Letting Go even. That's an excellent book. You know, it doesn't give you that quite tactile exercise, but it tells you that you need to let go of these things. And absolutely, we all do, in order to get to where we're going. Because if we don't let go of the importances and the traumas, let's say that I get to this point, but I didn't let any of the crap go from my subconscious mind, and I am operating from the square, these bottom 4 circuits, right? I can't get into higher consciousness because I didn't deal with this shit. So guess what? Here comes a pendulum, and it's gonna knock me off right when I get to my goal. Because that's what happens when you repress and you build and push into your shadow. When you don't address these traumas, they will come and find you, and they will swing and knock you off of your path at the most inopportune time. So, you know, I don't say that to try to spread fear about it, but it's very true. That is what's going to happen. When you see pride goes before a fall, when you see people who have had meteoric rises just crush and crash, it's because they got there and they weren't ready, right? They hadn't built an emotional fortress. They hadn't dealt with their traumas. They didn't have the self-worth. They felt inadequate underneath. Something was wrong, and they weren't able to hold it. So they ate shit. Boom. And so, you know, for any of you out there who haven't accomplished your goal yet, I would say, first of all, count yourself lucky, right? Had I accomplished the goals that I wanted to in my early 20s when I was making music, I probably would have destroyed myself. So I'm very happy that didn't happen, right? That gives me the opportunity to be more healthy and to actually have a much better and manageable lifestyle as a result. So breathe through those traumas, identify them in your body, let them release. Use the box breathing method. It's awesome. And then use visualization to expose yourself emotionally to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And yeah, you got it from there. That's easy peasy. All right, that's the end of this video. There will be probably more. Thanks, guys. Check me out on Patreon.